Hey there people, how you doing? So, today we have the complete comparison between the Note 20 Ultra and the Galaxy S21 Ultra. Now, obviously, this video is gonna mostly revolve around all the new upgrades that the S21 Ultra has over the Note 20 Ultra, and also, and almost more importantly, it's gonna focus on the number of fixes we have had, because let's face it, in 2020, the Samsung flagships, they were good, they were nice, but they had a lot of problems. They had a lot of issues, and here we're gonna see how much Samsung has been able to fix. And well, kind of like a spoiler alert, majority of the problems are basically gone, but not everything. So firstly, we'll start off with the design, and I mean, against the Note 20 Ultra, there's not really much to fix. And to be entirely honest, if Samsung had just slapped on this exact same design with more rounded corners on the S21 Ultra, well, I would not have been disappointed. That much I can tell you right now. But Samsung went a few steps beyond. They made this phone, the S21 Ultra, look even better. The camera module on the S21 Ultra, yeah, this is something else. This is essentially, it's metal that is encasing all of the cameras, and that's something else. That is so unique, and it looks so different from almost every other smartphone out there. I mean, let's face it, there are very few, if any, smartphones that have ever had this kind of a design with multiple cameras all encased in metal like this. I think that's very unique, and you know, as good as the Note 20 Ultra's camera module was, it looks very bold and everything, but this one, the camera module itself, it looks better. But overall design, well, I think that if you're using the Note 20 Ultra, you're gonna notice the design more, because, well, how many times are you gonna look at the back? A more industrial and the squared off corners, it looks awesome, and you're looking at it constantly. That's what makes, at least in my eyes, the Note 20 Ultra the most standout in terms of the design. And you know, I wanted to call it a tie initially when it comes to design, because, you know, a more industrial look on the Note versus a more unique look with the camera module on the S21. I think it would have depended on personal preference, but I think I'm going to hand the win to the Note here, because you are, as I said before, looking at the front of the device and you're constantly reminded just how good the Note looks. And speaking of the front, well, the displays have had quite a nice upgrade here on the S21 Ultra, because now we can do 1440p at 120Hz. This, although like technically possible, yeah, but it wasn't enabled on the Note 20 Ultra. We couldn't enable it even if we wanted to. Yes, it would have eaten up a lot of battery, so that was the official reasoning behind it, but nonetheless, not being able to max out your display, it kind of makes you feel like you're not getting your money's worth, because these are expensive devices after all. So what I feel is that now that we can have 1440p at 120Hz, for those that want the absolute maximum amount of sharpness and the highest number of pixels on their display, well, they can now have it. It's the option that should have been provided from the start itself, but because of numerous other issues, it was limited. Now, however, that's not the case, which is just amazing. Everything else is very similar, like the HDR experience, even the peak brightness is the exact same. We have the same variable refresh rate as well, so you know, your experience is basically going to be identical except for the 1440p, which again, visually, almost 99% of the time, I basically cannot see any difference between these two, except for YouTube, that is. YouTube really benefits from having 1440p, that much I can tell you right now. An easy upper hand on the S21 Ultra. Next up, for battery life and performance. Well, this is where last year, the Note suffered, like, really suffered, because the Exynos 990 in this one, in particular, was horrible with performance, battery life and all that. The efficiency was just not good enough, and performance also lacked quite a bit compared to the Snapdragon counterparts, and you know, it wasn't a really good case for the Note 20 Ultra. But now, on the S21 Ultra, most of those issues have been entirely fixed. Again, most. You see, the heating issues have somehow inherited over to the Exynos 2100 that we have in the S21 Ultra. Everything else, the peak performance and the overall battery efficiency, it's all basically on par with the Snapdragon counterparts, and that's obviously good news. Samsung has essentially solved majority of the problems, but because of the heating issues, there might be certain applications, like there are obviously very few out there that can really drive this fairly powerful chipset, the Exynos 2100, down to its knees. It's gonna happen though. That's a problem. On the Snapdragon variants, that problem is not present. So again, if just like last year, if you can get your hands on the Snapdragon variants, you won't be experiencing any heating issues whatsoever. And battery life, well, that has, as I said before, been entirely fixed. I'm getting like almost 6.5 hours on medium to heavy usage. Like usually when I use the cameras, between 6 to 6.5 hours. But if I rarely use the camera, like if I took 2 photos in a day, well, then I can easily hit 7 hours. On the Note, however, that's not even possible. Like this one, with normal usage, I could barely hit 6. Like I had to kind of struggle at the end to really reach the 6 hours mark. Let's face it, the Note 20 Ultra's battery compared to the S21 Ultra is downright horrible. The S21 Ultra, I'm talking about battery life with 1440p at 120Hz, so that's much higher resolution compared to what we have on the Note. I mean, if that isn't impressive, I don't know what can be, because that is a massive upgrade compared to what we had on the Note, especially on the Exynos variants. If Samsung did one incredible job fixing up the S21 Ultra, it's with the processor. I mean, that is what technically impressed me more than anything else almost. Except for the cameras, that is. These cameras right here, man, I had not expected them to be this good. The photography game right here is very strong, because we have a second generation sort of 108 megapixel sensor, we have a 3x zoom, we have a 10x optical zoom, and obviously a very high quality ultra wide. We also have laser autofocus, just like the Note 20 Ultra, but as you might have heard already, the versatility on the S21 Ultra is way higher than the Note. And that really says something, because the Note was awesome with versatility. This one, however, with the double zoom camera situation here, it's really something else. And along with that, I think a major improvement is in the software side of things, the processing, because that I feel is where Samsung really nailed it home, because most of the photos that I take now have much more consistent contrast levels, a much better balance with colors and contrast. It all looks so much more refined. On the Note last year, the inconsistency was present, and it was one of my complaints about this phone, but on the S21 Ultra, it's a no-brainer. I mean, this is definitely way better in terms of giving us more consistent and really nice looking photographs. And on the selfie camera, I think that's where the real upgrade is, because now you turn off beauty mode on the S21 Ultra, you're gonna get every little detail that this camera can possibly capture. Like the amount of detail, the crispness of the selfies that you can get, it's staggering, let me tell you right now. Then on the video side of things, well, for the most part, it is fairly similar. Like, you know, in good lighting and all that, when you're out there shooting in daylight, you're probably not gonna notice much of a difference. And 10x zoom in video, well, it sounds nice on paper, but how many times are you gonna use 10x zoom for video? Like, I personally haven't found any practical use case for it, at least not yet. So other than my camera comparisons, I've never really zoomed in 10 times when capturing video. It's always been like 3 times or so. Even 5 times on the Note 20 Ultra was a rare occasion, so 10 times is basically out of the picture here. So yeah, video is very similar, and I think the only problem on the S21 Ultra here is that we get this weird smearing issue when shooting in low light or in backlit situations where the subject doesn't have a lot of light on them. Well, in those cases, at least I've found that the S21 Ultra has this crazy smearing whenever there's a little bit of motion. The Note 20 Ultra never had this issue, so it's specific to the processing on the S21 Ultra. That's one downside on the S21 Ultra, but other than that, most of it is essentially the same, if not better, on the S21 Ultra. So yeah, for the most part, cameras at least, for me, I feel like it's an easy choice. The S21 Ultra takes a win here. Most importantly because it does photos so well, and that's essentially what I tend to focus on more than video at least. Video, it should be good, and it is on the S21 Ultra except for that one issue. So yeah, for the most part, I feel like the S21 is a no-brainer winner here. See, the thing about the Note 20 Ultra in particular, even amongst other Samsung devices, is just the extra features that it can provide. Most notably, and obviously, the S Pen. Now, if you haven't heard the news already, we may not be getting a Note 21 Ultra this year. And that is sad, let me tell you right now. It's just... I was really looking forward to the next Note, like... I mean, it's not even coming, and yeah. So I think that makes this comparison a lot more sensible, because now this is the best Note or Galaxy Note device that you can buy, while this is the best Galaxy S series or the best Samsung flagship currently out right now. So which one should you go for? Do you really need the S Pen? So that is essentially what I'm trying to address here. So the S Pen situation. Well, on the Note, it's obviously a lot more usable because, you know, I personally feel like the S Pen is incredible. It's so good. I've made a few artworks with it as well. So yeah, getting into digital art and all that, being an artist, it's incredible. The experience is amazing. But the fact that we have S Pen compatibility on the S21 Ultra here, it does mean you can technically use it on the S21 Ultra, but the problem is that since we do not get the S Pen in here like on the Note 20 Ultra, well, you end up forgetting that you're supposed to use the S Pen, or you can use the S Pen for certain situations. I do end up using it sometimes for editing my thumbnails and whatnot, but you know, other than that, I rarely ever use it now because, you know, it's not here and I just forget about it. On the Note though, because of the fact that it's right here, I'm constantly reminded that I have an S Pen and I can do stuff with it. That's not the case on the S21 Ultra, so unless, like, you know for a fact that you're gonna buy the S21 Ultra and you wanna buy an S Pen separately and you're gonna have to carry it around and you're okay with all of that, well then, yeah, the S21 Ultra is great. It's an easy winner in my opinion, especially because the launch price of the S21 Ultra is $1,200 compared to $1,300 for this one. Obviously, this one's price has come down, but I'm just saying, from an almost apples to apple comparison, essentially, this one came at a lower price with way more features. In my opinion, it is an easy winner, the S21 Ultra here. But the Note, because of the S Pen, it could still sway some people towards buying the Note 20 Ultra because essentially this is the best Note out right now, and it's quite possibly gonna be the case until maybe next year. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be seeing you guys later. Cheers.